Hello people, another beautiful day. Yeah, found this article today, and actually not today, I found it yesterday, and I was reading up on it, you know, and it's talking about Game Pass, developers are preferring Game Pass over PlayStation Now, so when Phil Spencer first came out, he told everybody sales ain't the end all. Sales ain't the end all be all to video games. So he was talking about infrastructure and that Sony and Nintendo need to work on their infrastructure. So once Microsoft dropped Game Pass, they didn't look back whatsoever. And that ZeniMax and Bethesda deal, really filled the void of what Microsoft was trying to do with Game Pass, because Microsoft knew that in order to maintain Game Pass, they need a steady stream of games coming in. And, they had the backwards compatibility, that is huge. But then they had the ZeniMax and Bethesda deal, that is also huge, and it's serving its purpose, and you can see it. But then they brought Game Pass to iOS developers, so Microsoft didn't just keep Game Pass to themselves. So Game Pass is doing its thing. But this article that I found today is about Game Pass. It's talking about Game Pass, and developers are preferring Game Pass over PlayStation because in order for developers to patch games, they got to go through 4 or 5 different sequences before they can patch the game. Versus on Xbox, you only go through one sequence. So developers are preferring Game Pass over PlayStation, but that means that PlayStation needs to work on their infrastructure. But anyway, I'm gonna read some part of this article that I just found. Okay, where's the? Need to get the mice here, the mouse here. Okay, let's do this. It says here. I'm gonna read part of it. Part of the last half of it. It says here, no matter how much, it says, the title goes like this: one developer isn't enough to win a war. It says no matter how much Avalanche wants to celebrate its new partner, one studio isn't enough to put Xbox army ahead of PlayStation. That being because PlayStation built a huge foundation between the PlayStation 1 and 2. But then when Microsoft came out, they had to contend with the PlayStation 2. But then they had to deal with the fact that PlayStation had built a huge foundation with PlayStation 1. But anyway, it says here, Avalanche isn't alone in preferring how Microsoft leads its charge with Game Pass at the front. And if some reports are to be believed, small developers may find it easier to join Xbox ranks too. As reported by Push Square, multiple independent creators have been dissatisfied by Sony's approach to running its PlayStation Store. In general, Sony Marketplace seems to favor AAA mega hits, an approach that can apparently lead to delays in getting sales figures and can make discontinuing your games near impossible. So if you aren't a household name, but that's all once you actually list on PlayStation Store, a task that itself can require you jumping through multiple hoops with complicated approval process, as one anonymous developer explained. In time, you'll begin to understand where everything is, but that's probably just from repetition, or in our case, internal documentation that we note for ourselves to act as a reference for another member of our team. It's getting interesting here. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I have this on. Anyway, let's keep going. It says here. says here that here comes the difficult part. It says here the difficult thing that comes up is just having to jump between all different portals to achieve the common goal of what you might be working on. The developer went on to explain that this same convoluted approach persists when you just want to patch your game. You go to one portal to submit the patch. You can open up a program on your computer to upload the patch, build for Sony to check. You then need to go to a separate portal for the next step to continue the process. You can jump back to that original portal for another step, back to the previous portal to then set your approval patch live. Then it says here, if it really is this complicated, it is surprising that developers would continue to support the PlayStation platform, especially when, for comparison, on Xbox, the same is all done in just one portal. Then it says here, indie games almost certainly don't sell as well as AAA games, but they shouldn't be ignored. The studio behind these titles offer new and experimental experience that you likely won't find from a blockbuster studio, and they would also do well to fill in the gaps between larger releases. It says here, if Microsoft builds up a stronger working relationship with these developers, thanks to a simpler process, Sony infantry of smaller games could soon defect. So this article is really talking about Game Pass versus PlayStation Now, and PlayStation Plus versus Xbox Live. Xbox Live versus PlayStation Plus. So you can see the struggles that developers. It's easier to patch games on Xbox than it is to do it on PlayStation. PlayStation, you got to go through hoops before you finally get the project done. On Xbox, you go through one portal. On PlayStation, you go through 5. So when Phil Spencer came on and said, okay, sales ain't the end all be all to video games, he was really talking about infrastructure. He was talking about infrastructure. So Sony got some work to do on their infrastructure with their PlayStation Now and their with their PlayStation Store. Microsoft did their homework, but now Sony got to play catch up. So of course, if Sony and Microsoft had started off in the console race at the same time, the story might have been different. But PlayStation had a head start with PlayStation 1, and they built a huge foundation with PlayStation 1. But they made the foundation even bigger with PlayStation 2. So Microsoft got that huge foundation between PlayStation 1 and 2 to deal with. Because when they came out with the original Xbox, they had to really build a foundation. But to compete with that PlayStation 1 and 2, yeah, that's a huge foundation. So, Sony needed to work on. They got the foundation on PlayStation. They got the foundation between PlayStation 1 and 2, but now they need an infrastructure and a network. So that's what Phil Spencer was talking about when he says sales in the end all be all to video games. It means that you need to work on your infrastructure, meaning work on your PlayStation network, work on your store, work on your infrastructure, everything. And but Microsoft, once they came into the game industry, they didn't just focus on sales and exclusive. They were more into the infrastructure, the network, and that's why the Xbox Live is so popular over PlayStation Network. The Xbox Live network is faster. So Microsoft always had the better network, had the infrastructure. Sony was always playing catch up because they were more focused on sales and exclusive. So this article just made the made the argument now to show the weakness when it comes to PlayStation. When it comes to PlayStation and dealing with their network and their store versus dealing with Microsoft and their Xbox with their Xbox network and their store. So it's easier to do DLCs and fix and patches on the Xbox versus on the PlayStation. So Sony right now got some work to do. Nintendo, on the other hand, you know, they should have stayed with the Wii U because they had a foundation with it. They had an infrastructure, they had a network, and they had features. And then the Virtual Console is just like Game Pass. The only difference is they don't have a ZeniMax Bethesda deal. They should have stayed with it. You know, it would have saved them a lot of headaches, because right now they're going through headaches with the Switch. You know, when Phil Spencer came on and said, okay, sales ain't the end all be all to, sales ain't the end all be all to video games. They were basically, he was saying to Sony and Nintendo, work on your infrastructure, work on your network. Stop focusing on sales and exclusives so much. Do some groundwork, you know. And this article is just pointing that out, you know, because it's easier now for developers to do what they need to do on Xbox versus like on a PlayStation or Nintendo. They're having a hard time to get things done. So that's what this article is talking about. But anyway, I'm gonna leave a link in the description box with this article so y'all can look at it. But nice talking to you people again. Chris, still a Star Wars and Star Trek thing. Bored, dark side. Gone. Peace.